Hi everyone. So this week my question is coming from the Understanding Behaviorism book, chapter 8. But it's on page 147 and 148, and it's the always two relations. So this paragraph starts off by saying rule-governed behavior always involves two relations or contingencies. So the long term is the ultimate relation, and the reason for the rule in the first place. And then the short term is the proximate reinforcement relation for following the rule. So in the book they use the example of a smoker. So they said basically it's very difficult to try to get a smoker to quit a habit after it being done for 20 years. So however, talking to the smoker about the habit and that relates to his health, the person's health, doesn't really do much for him, because they know that habit's bad for them, but at the end of the day, and telling them like all these health side effects of what could happen to them in the long run isn't really going to do them any good, because they're still going to do the habit, and they know that what the consequences are, the long-term effects. But then it goes and explains like the rule approximate of reinforcement is usually supplied by the speaker, so you want to introduce and maintain the desired behavior, so wanting to break that bad habit. However, to do this, they kind of talk about how we need to do this by maybe picking up a good habit. So obviously this can be very difficult. Another thing that I can think of is someone who has a major sweet tooth. Obviously, if we eat a lot of sweets over a long period of time, there's a lot of consequences that can happen, such as, the fact that we could maybe get diabetes later on, or we could become overweight, or cavities, all these different things. And so rather than trying to, fix that, we need to find something else, maybe to kind of replace us, kind of how I looked at it, that's not as bad. So maybe such as eating sweets, try to eat a fruit, or an apple, to take over that sweetness, because fruits are still sweet, but it's a healthier option, and it'll have better side effects in the long run. And I feel like, in a way, this is what we do with what we will be doing with our kids, because even though a child may be behaving a way for, let's say we have a 5-year-old kiddo who a parent brings to us and says they've been behaving, or they have this certain behavior, aggressive behavior, and it's been occurring for the past 3 years. Well, even though that child, 3 years doesn't seem that long, but for a 5-year-old, that's a long time. So I feel like, in a way, with the rule govern piece and how these two go hand in hand, is we have the long term, and then we have like what that consequence is going to be. So we have the ultimate relation, which is the long term, and then we have the proximate reinforcement, which is that behavior that we want to try to change and try to reteach that behavior into doing something else, so it doesn't have those long-term effects later on the parents and the child. So my question kind of stems from that. So how is early intervention kind of go with rule govern and the ultimate relation? Once again, that is the long term, and then the proximate is the short term, and this is the relation following the rule. So how can we help families with treatment to understand and to kind of get them to understand why it's important to try to break these habits, even though it's only been occurring maybe for 2 or 3 years. But breaking them early on will help them with these behaviors later, and we won't have the health problems won't occur. They may not have, but we're going to try to prevent those health problems or severe issues later on. So how could we explain this to somebody or to our parents to try to help with intervention with their questioning us? So, thanks.